All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to our Cybersecurity Awareness Month webinar. Thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate all of you for being here. My name is Rick and I'm with Move America and Project Spectrum. And if you're joining us today, I want to say congratulations. You have just made a better security decision than about 74% of the people who ignore these kinds of training webinars. But more on that statistic in just a minute. Spoiler alert, I will say, though, it's not great news for humanity. Today, we're diving into Cybersecurity Starts With You, which is both the title of our presentation and a gentle reminder that, yes, you are part of your organization's security posture. Now, listen, I know, you thought you were just here to do your job, make widgets, crunch numbers, or whatever it is you do. But here's an interesting plot twist. You're also a cybersecurity defender. So you need to think of it like being drafted into a very important team, except instead of a cool uniform, you get some complex password requirements and mandatory training webinars. You're welcome. So remember, it is October, which means that it's officially Cybersecurity Awareness Month. It's kind of like Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but instead of wearing pink ribbons, we're all wearing layers of authentication. I know it's not as fashionable, but arguably it's a little more protective in the digital world. So what I want to say is grab your coffee or whatever caffeinated beverage you decide to have, settle in, and let's talk about how you, and I am talking to you specifically, are both the strongest defense and the weakest link in cybersecurity. Don't worry, we'll explain how to be more the former and less of the latter. All right, so here we are at our meet the presenter slide. A quick introduction about me before we dive into the good stuff. I'm the strategic communications guru for a nonprofit known as Move America. And I work very closely with the Project Spectrum outreach team, which is led by my counterpart, Mark Chisholm, who is one awesome dude and keeps these webinars just humming. My job hosting these webinars is basically to take terrifying cybersecurity concepts and make them slightly less terrifying, right? It's kind of like explaining to your grandmother why she shouldn't click on emails from foreign princes, except it's on a much larger scale. Now, remember, Project Spectrum is a cybersecurity awareness initiative that provides the tools, training, and resources that help businesses and organizations maintain compliance with defense contracting requirements. We're like your cybersecurity fairy godparents, except instead of turning pumpkins into carriages, we turn confused contractors into compliant cybersecurity professionals. And honestly, I think the pumpkin thing is probably a little bit easier. Now, I've been in this space long enough to have seen passwords evolve from password to substituting an @ symbol and a 0 for 2 of the letters, and then eventually capitalizing it and adding 1, 2, 3 exclamation point on the end. And I'll give you a quick spoiler alert, that practice is not actually more secure. We're going to talk about that too. But before we get rolling, let's cover some housekeeping. And unlike actual housekeeping, this will only take a minute and you won't have to worry about lifting things up to dust. First, your microphone is muted and your camera is off. Now, I know you're probably in a quiet space and you're probably dressed like a grown-up, at least what's visible on camera. But trust me, nobody wants to hear your dog barking, see the cat jumping on a keyboard, having your kids ask for snacks, or your spouse yell about what's for dinner. And trust me, we've all been there. What I want to make sure you do is check how your name is displayed for others to see, okay? Because if it says iPhone or guest user 47, I don't know, you might want to update that so your colleagues know that you're actually here and you're actually engaged. Unless you're trying to stay incognito, which in case, again, respect for you, but maybe this type of training webinar isn't the best place to practice stealth. If you have questions, fantastic. Drop them in the chat box. Our fantastic Project Spectrum team will tackle as many as possible during the webinar, and we'll try to get to some at the end as well so everybody can hear the answers. Think of me as your cybersecurity game show host, except instead of winning prizes, you win knowledge and job security, which is pretty valuable too. One more thing before we dive in, just a quick note about where I'm chiming in from today. I'm coming to you from beautiful Maryland. It is sunny here, I think. Haven't been outside much today. But we're home of Blue Crabs, the Chesapeake Bay, Project Spectrum headquarters, And Maryland's also a two-party consent state when it comes to recordings. Now, that's a really fancy way of saying that by staying on this webinar, you're giving your consent to be part of a recorded session. Now, again, think of it like being in the audience of a TV show. If you stick around, you might end up on camera. But in this case, because your camera's off and your microphone's muted, on camera simply means your questions in the chat might be included in the recording in the transcript. If you're comfortable with that, stick around. If you're not, hey, no judgment. Feel free to jump off now. We're going to send you the replay link later. You can watch it at your leisure, in your pajamas, with nobody knowing whether you paused to grab snacks, kind of like the Netflix version of cybersecurity training. All right, so we'll give it 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so everybody staying, thanks for consenting to be part of today's recorded adventure in cybersecurity awareness. Your participation really helps make this valuable for everyone who watches the replay later. Now, let's go on and get to the good stuff. Today's agenda. Let me give you the roadmap for today's journey through the wonderful world of not getting hacked. We're going to start with Project Spectrum's mission and why Cybersecurity Awareness Month starts with you, the individual. Then we'll look at the current threat landscape, which I'll warn you now is about as friendly as a porcupine in a balloon factory. We're going to touch on CMMC, the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, because if you're working with government defense contracts, this is rapidly becoming as essential as coffee on a Monday morning. Then comes the meat and potatoes, or for those of us who are like me on a carnivore diet, just the meat. But it's all about the human firewall. We're going to talk about password power, multi-factor authentication, spotting phishing attempts, and safe device practices. These are the 4 pillars that separate easy target from too much trouble, let's go bother someone else. And we're going to wrap up with a real-world case study about Interlock ransomware, because let me just tell you something. Nothing drives a point home like seeing how things can go spectacularly wrong when we ignore those cybersecurity basics. Finally, I'll show you all the amazing resources Project Spectrum has available, because nobody should have to become a cybersecurity expert by themselves, and you have to remember we are here to help. So speaking about we, I think that's a perfect lead into letting you know more about Project Spectrum, because understanding why we exist helps explain why this training matters so much. Project Spectrum bolsters homeland defense. Now, I know you're saying, Rick, that's really dramatic, like something out of an action movie, but I have to say it's actually pretty straightforward. Look, we're providing the comprehensive tools and training to increase cybersecurity awareness and maintain compliance with defense and other government contracting requirements. Because here's the thing, we strengthen national security by supporting organizations like yours that provide the technological solutions to reestablish deterrence and modernize the defense industrial base. Every time a defense contractor gets hacked, every time somebody in the supply chain gets hacked, it's not just embarrassing, it's a potential national security issue. Your CAD drawings of aircraft parts, someone in another country would absolutely love to have those. Your supplier list, that is a roadmap for compromise. So we protect the homeland and our warfighters by providing organizations like yours with up-to-date cybersecurity compliance education, tools, and training, because let's face it, you got into business to make amazing products or provide incredible services, not to become full-time cybersecurity experts. And that's really where we come in and help. Think of us as your cybersecurity Sherpa. We're going to guide you up the mountain of compliance without making you feel like you're climbing Mount Everest in flip-flops. So when you're talking about Cybersecurity Awareness Month, right? That is October. We're smack dab in the middle of the month, or more toward the end of the month. But while it doesn't quite get the same attention as Halloween or pumpkin spice season at every beverage and food place ever, it's arguably more important, even if you really like your pumpkin spice latte. For more than 20 years, CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, has recognized October as a time to focus on cybersecurity awareness. It's like an annual reminder that yes, cyber threats are still out there. Yes, they're getting worse. And no, they're not going away just because you ignore them and plug your ears and go la, 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 la. It's not going to happen. This year's theme is particularly relevant. Cybersecurity starts with you. Not with your IT department, not with some magical security software that's going to keep you safe 24/7, 365, and definitely not with hopes and prayers. It's with you. Each individual person who touches a keyboard, clicks a mouse, opens an email, that's who cybersecurity needs to start with. Now, if you need more information about the official Cybersecurity Awareness Month campaign, all you need to do is check out CISA's Cybersecurity Awareness Month site. It's packed with resources, and unlike most government websites, it's actually pretty user-friendly, so I highly recommend it. And there you go. Now you see that link. You see the wonderful link about CISA.gov/cybersecurity-awareness-month. All right. So again, let's get into the real reasons, right? The why behind today's theme. Why does cybersecurity start with you? We've got three big reasons right here. First of all, cybersecurity is a chain. And like any chain, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And Jane Lynch is now the one who's telling us what happens with the weakest link. Bye-bye. If one person clicks a malicious link, an entire system can be compromised. It's like that old saying about how one bad apple spoils the bunch, except in this case, one bad click can encrypt your entire network and demand a Bitcoin ransom. That is significantly worse than having a spoiled apple. Number two, human error is the number one cause of breaches. Studies consistently show that phishing and poor password hygiene are responsible for the majority of successful cyber attacks. Not the sophisticated zero-day exploits, not the nation-state advanced persistent threats. Just Bob in accounting clicking verify your account now because the email looked legitimate, right? And then number three, personal responsibility matters. Just like washing your hands help you stop the spread of illness, practicing good cyber hygiene helps protect everyone around you. No face mask necessary. When you use a strong password, you're not just protecting your account, you're protecting your colleagues, your company, your customers, and potentially, like I said, our national defense infrastructure. No pressure there, right? Now, I will say there is some good news. Unlike some aspects of cybersecurity that require expensive software or complex configurations, the human firewall just requires awareness and discipline. Trust me, you've got this. So let's take a look at the threat landscape. It's time for some sobering statistics, and I do mean sobering. You might want to put down your caffeinated beverage and grab something stronger. No, just kidding. Stay alert for this part, and please don't imbibe in anything else stronger until after the webinar. The defense industrial base is under attack constantly. Small and medium businesses are absolutely on the front line. So here you see some numbers that, again, are really staggering. 43% of all cyber attacks target SMBs. That's nearly half. If you're thinking, surely they're not after me, they're after the big guys, you're wrong. Attackers love small businesses because only 14% of you have plans to actually mitigate those attacks. That's right. 86% of small and medium businesses are basically winging it when it comes to cybersecurity. That's like 86% of drivers deciding that seatbelts are optional. Again, spoiler alert, they're not. 74% of breaches, remember that 74% number? They're caused by human error. There's the stat I mentioned earlier. We are literally our own worst enemy. Someone clicks the wrong link, uses a weak password, or accidentally emails sensitive data to the wrong person, and boom, breach city. Not something you want. The cost, well, again, we're talking on average $653,000 to $826,000 for an SMB cyber attack. That's not, oops, we had a bad quarter money. That's, we might have to close the business money for many small companies. Here's the real kick in the teeth. Only 17% of small and medium businesses have the proper insurance coverage for cyber attacks. So not only are you a target, but you're probably not financially prepared for when something actually does happen. So why are SMBs targeted? That's a great question. Look, you've got intellectual property and trade secrets. You've got these dual use technologies. You've got access to sensitive government information. And you're interconnected with larger defense contractors. You're like the side door into a mansion. It's a lot easier to breach than the front entrance with all of its security, but it gets the bad guys to the same valuable stuff inside. So you got to be very careful. So again, let's dig a little deeper into why small and medium businesses are wearing giant "Hack Me" signs on their back. Metaphorically speaking, of course. If you do have one of those on your back, though, I do recommend getting rid of it. First of all, you've got those supply chain access points. Remember, attackers see SMBs as stepping stones to larger targets. By compromising one vendor or supplier, those bad actors and threat actors can potentially access an entire network of business relationships. Think of the defense supply chain like a series of connected dominoes. If you can knock over one small business domino, you might be able to access an entire larger network of contractors. And oof, it's the Ocean's 11 approach to cybercrime, except instead of George Clooney and elaborate heist plans, it's some guy in a basement somewhere eating Hot Pockets and writing phishing emails. But you think that, right? It really isn't. It's big business these days. You've got a lot of really sophisticated organizations that are running these scams now. Intellectual property value. Your intellectual property value holds significant value on the black market and in state-sponsored campaigns. Even if you don't think it's that valuable, I promise you, someone else out there disagrees. Whether it's your manufacturing process, your technical specifications, your supplier relationships, all of that has value to adversaries and competitors. And trust me, they're out there looking for it. Then you've got limited in-house cybersecurity resources. We get it. The lack of a dedicated security team makes it harder to detect or even respond to or even anticipate threats. You're a 25-person or less company making precision components for defense systems. Your focus is rightly on production and delivery. That's what you do best. Unfortunately, that often means cybersecurity falls to whoever in the office knows computers. And it's usually the person who figured out how to connect the printer without having to go through too many major hoops. Again, this is not a criticism. We don't want to criticize. We're just saying this is reality for most small and medium businesses. And it's exactly why attackers target you. They know you don't have a 24/7 security operations center monitoring for threats. As a matter of fact, they are counting on it. So let's talk about the specific threats that keep cybersecurity professionals up at night. These are the greatest hits of the cyber threat world. And unlike actual greatest hits, nobody wants an encore performance. You've got phishing and social engineering. A simple email or fake invoice can be all it takes to trigger a serious breach. This is the digital equivalent of someone still calling and pretending to work at the IRS and tell you that you owe back taxes. It's low tech, it's old school, and it still works embarrassingly well. Why? Because attackers are good at making things look legitimate. Then you've got ransomware disrupting production. When ransomware hits, it doesn't just lock up your data. Literally, it can bring down your entire assembly line and grind it to a halt. Imagine trying to explain to your prime contractor that you can't deliver on critical components just because all your systems are encrypted and some hacker in Eastern Europe is demanding Bitcoin. Missed deadlines translate directly to lost revenue, damaged relationships, and potentially, or most definitely, losing future contracts. Then you've got the supply chain vulnerabilities. A single weak link in a third-party connection can expose your entire operation to risk. Maybe it's a vendor, maybe it's a service provider, maybe it's that IT consultant who still uses password 123. The interconnected nature of the defense industrial base makes supply chain attacks especially dangerous because they're hard to predict and even harder to prevent. Then you've got intellectual property theft. This is the one that can really hurt long term. Sure, recovering from ransomware is expensive and disruptive, but at least you can rebuild. When someone steals your IP, your designs, your processes, your competitive advantage, they can cause long-term damage to your market position and your reputation. Suddenly, competitors have access to your innovations. You might not even know it happened until you see your technology being used by someone else. Then you've got operational disruption. Beyond the immediate financial impact, cyber incidents often create lingering disruption. Equipment malfunctions, you've got compliance violations, production delays, shaking customer trust. Even after you've recovered technically, you're dealing with the aftermath for months or even years. So that's why we're going to shift gears and talk about CMMC. Again, that stands for the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. If you're working with defense contracts, this is rapidly becoming as mandatory as oxygen. If you're not working with defense contracts, trust me, these principles still apply to good cybersecurity practice, so you're going to want to stick around and hear about this. You see, CMMC isn't just another acronym to memorize, although let's be honest, in government contracting, we love our acronyms. It's a framework that fundamentally changes how the department how it thinks about contractor cybersecurity. Gone are the days of trust but don't really verify. Now it's verify, then continue verifying, and then verify some more. And honestly, that is a good thing because hope is not a cybersecurity strategy, no matter how you like to think about it. So let's break down the CMMC model. Think of it like a ladder with 3 rungs, where each rung represents a higher level of cybersecurity capability that you want to aspire to. And yes, you actually do have to climb this ladder. There's no skipping to the top. You've got to go up the steps if you're going to level 3. So level 1 is foundational, basic data safeguarding for businesses that only handle what's known as FCI or federal contract information. That's things like contract details, organizational charts, procurement documents. It includes 15 requirements that are aligned with the FAR Rule 52.204-21. Don't worry, you don't need to memorize that. There will not be a quiz at the end. This is the make sure your doors are locked and your windows aren't wide open level of security, if we want to put it into plain terms. Then you've got level 2, which is advanced. This is where you enhance your data safeguarding for any organization that handles basic and specified CUI data acquisition. CUI, of course, stands for Controlled Unclassified Information. This is the sensitive technical and operational information that while it's not classified, still needs protection. Level 2 includes 110 requirements aligned with NIST SP-800-171 Revision 2. This is where things get significantly more serious. And then CMMC Level 3 is expert. Let me just say, most small and medium businesses are never going to need to get this high. It's really for high capacity safeguarding of CUI data related to national security programs or high value assets. 134 requirements. You're taking 110 from the level 2 plus an additional 24 from NIST SP 800-171 Revision 2. Again, this is for the really serious stuff, the crown jewels, if this information gets compromised, we have major problems kind of information. Now, the beauty of having a tiered system like this is that it's scalable. Again, not everyone needs to be at level 3, and that's okay. The level you need depends on the type of information you're handling and the contracts you're pursuing, because the contract, the RFP, will tell you what level you need to be. Here's the point for today. No matter which level you need, whether you're at 1, 2, or 3, the human firewall principles we're about to discuss apply to every last one of them. All right, so let's start demystifying these acronyms because they are super important for understanding your compliance requirements. Again, when you're talking about FCI or federal contract information, like I said, this falls under the FAR clause 52.204-21. FCI is sensitive, it is not classified, and it's information that's provided by or generated for the government under a contract. So think contract information, org charts, process documentation, performance reports, RFP or RFI responses. Basically anything you create or receive because of your government contract work that isn't meant for public consumption. Then you've got CUI, the Controlled Unclassified Information. This falls under DFARS Clause 252.204-7012. CUI is a much broader category of sensitive information that, while unclassified, requires safeguarding and dissemination controls pursuant to federal laws, regulations, and policies. Examples include proprietary business information, unclassified controlled technical information, or anything marked for official use only or law enforcement sensitive. Here's the key difference to remember. FCI is about contract administration. CUI is about technical and sensitive information. FCI, level 1. CUI is either level 2 or level 3. Why does this matter? Because knowing whether you're handling FCI or CUI determines what CMMC level you're going to need. It determines your entire compliance strategy, and it determines how much time and money, because it's going to cost, you're going to be investing in cybersecurity. If you get this wrong and you're building your cybersecurity house on the wrong foundation, it is going to topple like a house of cards when someone turns the fan on in the room. And we all hated when that happened, didn't we? So when you're talking about understanding your data and compliance requirements, we like this slide because it really does distill down to the essentials. Again, if you're handling FCI, you're required by contract to have a minimum of level 1 CMMC compliance. That's the baseline. That's the absolute minimum. It's the you must be this tall to ride requirement. You are not allowed to wear heeled platform shoes. You are not allowed to stand on your tiptoes. If you're handling CUI, any organization that handles CUI must have that minimum CMMC level 2 compliance. Notice I said minimum because some CUI might actually require level 3. It's really going to depend on the sensitivity and the program that it supports. Your key takeaway is that understanding your data enables you to identify the level of compliance you require. You cannot start your compliance journey if you don't know where you need to go. It's like planning a road trip. You wouldn't just get in your vehicle and start driving without knowing your destination, right? Especially if you're driving an electric vehicle, you're going to want to know the destination and where the charging stations are, or the gas stations if you're driving a non-electric vehicle. Same principle. You need to figure out what kind of data you're handling, and then you'll know which level of CMMC you need to achieve. All right, CMMC has landed. It's time for a reality check. CMMC is here, it's real, and it's happening right now. September 2024 marked the official start of CMMC implementation across DoD contracts. The Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation Supplement, again, here are our acronyms, DFARS for short, because we love our acronyms, it became live in the Federal Register on September 10th, 2024. Phase 1, that begins November 10th, 2025. That's less than a month away as we're speaking today. So why does this matter? First, adhering to cybersecurity standards is non-negotiable in today's digital landscape. There's no opt-out button. There's no maybe later option. If you want to work with the Department of Defense, this is the price of admission. Second, adhering to CMMC Phase 1 requirements will not only help protect sensitive information, though that's obviously crucial, it also enhances your competitiveness in the federal procurement process. When you're bidding against competitors who are scrambling to get compliant, your ready to go status is a significant advantage for you getting those contracts. So with that said, what should you do? Here are some great items from our experts. First of all, you need to assess your current cybersecurity posture. Where are you now? What gaps exist? What's already in place? You can't improve what you don't measure, right? Then you need to develop a compliance strategy. How are you going to close the gaps? What resources do you need? And what timeline do you need to stick to? This isn't something you're going to be able to knock out in a weekend. Let me tell you, people have tried. Stay informed. The space is evolving. Regulations are changing. Threats are evolving. Best practices continue to develop. Subscribe to updates, attend webinars like this one, and keep your finger on the pulse. Being proactive about these requirements can set your organization apart and pave the way for future government contracting opportunities. Or, you could just wait until the last minute and panic. I don't recommend that strategy, but I sadly have seen it more times than I would like to count. So let's hit the human firewall. We're getting to the good stuff, the practical, actionable information that you can implement starting today. That's right. We're going to talk about this human firewall, not the technical firewall that sits on your network blocking malicious traffic. Those are important too, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you. You are part of the human firewall. You are the human being sitting at the keyboard, making decisions every day about what to click, what passwords to use, and what links to trust. The human firewall is the concept that while technical firewalls protect networks, humans protect organizations. You are the last line of defense between attackers and your company's valuable data. So think of it this way. You can have the fanciest, most expensive technical firewall in the world, but if someone tricks you into giving them the password, it might as well be made of Swiss cheese, or like one of those old Afghans where they're all full of holes, but somehow you're expected to keep warm. It doesn't always work. So let's talk about how to be an effective human firewall, how to be the guardian at the gate rather than the person who accidentally leaves the door wide open and says, oops, did I do that? So the concept of the human firewall rests upon the understanding that while firewalls protect networks, humans protect organizations. Now let that sink in for just a moment. There we go. You protect your organization, not the IT team, not some expensive security software, you. This concept recognizes the everyday risks at both work and home that put that data at risk. Now, here are some serious and common risks. You've got weak passwords. I'm specifically looking at you, everybody who kind of cringed a little bit when I mentioned password 123 before. Clicking suspicious links, even when they look legitimate. Unsafe downloads. Free software is rarely actually free. Unsecured Wi-Fi networks. That coffee shop Wi-Fi named free Wi-Fi is probably not your friend if you're handling any kind of FCI or CUI. But here's the good news. Simple actions collectively create resilience. So you can have strong and unique passwords, and we'll give you the how on that in just a minute. You've got multi-factor authentication or MFA, and believe me, it's a lot easier than you think. You've got recognizing phishing and social engineering attempts, learning to spot the red flags. And then you've got device hygiene. That's the updates, the patches, the locking screens, the boring but essential stuff. It's boring, but it is essential. None of these things require a computer science degree. All they require is awareness and discipline. You brush your teeth every day to prevent cavities, right? Unless, of course, you have dentures, and you still got to brush those. It's not going to prevent cavities, but it is going to keep them clean and the breath smelling a little fresher. Well, these are the cyber hygiene equivalents, daily practices that prevent much bigger problems down the road. So let's go to password power. We have password power. Let's talk passwords. It's everybody's favorite topic, right up there with dental surgery and tax returns, right? You remember CISA? Remember CISA, Cybersecurity Infrastructure and Security Agency? They offer the following recommendations for creating passwords. I'm going to break them down with some real talk because sometimes they get into that government speak. Make them long, at least 16 characters, because longer is stronger. 16 characters, I know, seems excessive. And having 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 12 exclamation points, no, still not a good idea. Length matters more than complexity when it comes to passwords, but you still need a mix of both. That 16-character password is exponentially harder to crack than an 8-character password, even if that 8-character password has all the special characters and numbers. Think of it like this. Would you rather have a 4-foot fence made of titanium or a 20-foot fence made of wood? Again, I think the height and the strength wins every time. Make them random. Use a random string of mixed case letters, numbers, and symbols. Here's the thing. This is where things get fun. Don't use something like, I love my dog 2024 with some random capital letters as your password. Even though it meets the technical requirements, attackers use dictionaries of common phrases and predictable patterns. Random is your friend. Spaces can make a password even more complex. Consider using a passphrase like correct -horse -battery -staple. And yes, for the nerds in the audience, that's an XKCD reference. Make those passwords unique. Never reuse passwords on multiple accounts or devices. Anybody who's doing that, go ahead and hide your head in shame. And trust me, I'm not completely guilt-free on this one either. This is where most people fail. I get it. Remembering 47 different passwords is a challenge. But here's the one thing. If you reuse passwords and one account gets hacked and compromised, attackers are going to try that same password on every other account they can find that's associated with you. It's like if you have the same key for your house, your car, your office, and your safe deposit box. Someone gets the key, they've got access to everything. Here's a pro tip. Use a password manager. As the sheer number and complexity of passwords grow, it becomes harder to keep track. Don't save your passwords in a file on your computer called passwords.doc or passwords.xls. Yes, I've seen people do this. And yes, it is still a terrible idea. Use an actual password manager. Tools like LastPass, 1Password, Bitwarden, Dashlane. Even now with Apple devices, Apple has its password manager. A lot of times, the password managers will generate strong passwords for you. They'll store them securely and they'll autofill them in when you need them. You only have to remember one master password and the password manager handles the rest. It's like having a digital butler for all of your passwords. MFA saves the day. Let's talk about multi-factor authentication, also known as two-factor authentication or 2FA. Yes, they're interchangeable. Why? I don't know. This is the single easiest, most effective security improvement you can make, and yet so many people still don't use it. Trust me, folks, MFA, 2FA is an easily implemented solution that greatly enhances personal and organizational security. It adds an extra step beyond a password that adds another layer of protection to thwart unauthorized access. Think of it like this. Your password is like a key to your house, but MFA or 2FA is like having a key and a security code. Even if someone steals the key, they still can't get in without the code. MFA or 2FA requires a combination of at least two of the following. Something you know, like a PIN number or password. This is the traditional authentication method we're all familiar with. Something you have, like an authentication app or a text on your phone. Usually a code that's generated by Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, Duo, or it's sent to you again via text message. Here's a pro tip. Authentication apps are more secure than those text messages, but text messages are still better than nothing. Then you've got something that you are. Nobody else is going to be able to duplicate this. A fingerprint, a face scan. It's what we refer to as biometric authentication. Using your unique physical characteristics to prove you are who you say you are. Now, the beauty of MFA is that even if someone manages to steal or even guess your password, maybe through a phishing email or a data breach on another site where you reuse that password, and we just talked about why that's bad, they still can't access your account without that second factor. Is it slightly more annoying? Yes, it is. Believe me, as somebody who has to keep going to that Microsoft Authenticator and punching in that number every couple of days, I know how you feel. It takes an extra 10 seconds when I log in. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Because I promise you, recovering from a compromised account is way more annoying than entering that code into your device. Spotting phishing and social engineering. Now, again, we're getting to the real meat and potatoes if you do eat those things. It's phishing. This is the #1 attack method used by threat actors, according to IBM. Not sophisticated zero-day exploits, not advanced persistent threats, just good old-fashioned trickery. In phishing schemes, threat actors pose as a trustworthy colleague, an acquaintance, or in an organization to lure their victims into providing sensitive information or network access. Email is the most common way of getting phishing, but it can also happen by text message, which is called schmishing, phone calls, which is called vishing, or social media, which doesn't really have another name. CISA phishing campaign assessments found these to be common email subjects that successfully trick people. Financial security alerts and updates. Your account has been compromised. Click here immediately to secure it. It works because it creates urgency and fear. Nobody wants their bank account compromised, so we click first and think second or third or fourth. Organization-wide announcements and updates. Important. All employees must complete this mandatory training by EOD today. These work because they look official and we don't want to be the one person who didn't comply. Then you've got user-specific alerts, such as training updates. Your password will expire in 24 hours. Click here to reset it. These work because they seem personalized and legitimate. The key to spotting phishing is to slow down and to look for red flags. If you get a generic greeting like "Dear User" or "Dear Customer," if the suspicious sender email address is customer service at Amazon.com, but the O in Amazon is actually a 0, urgent language designed to make you panic and click without thinking, requests for sensitive information that legitimate organizations wouldn't ask for over email. Nobody's going to ask you for your driver's license number or a picture of your passport. Spelling and grammar mistakes. Hackers are starting to get better at this, especially with AI, but they're still using them. And then links that don't match where they claim to go. If you hover over the link, you can see the real URL before clicking. And if it's huge, when it's only supposed to be a little one, you don't want to go there. When in doubt, don't click. Just instead go directly to the website by typing the URL yourself, or contact the organization using a phone number that you look up independently, not one provided in the suspicious email, because they are waiting on the other end of that phone. So CISA recommends taking the following steps to prevent phishing attacks, and these apply both to organizations and individuals. You've got blocking the attempts. Implement strong network border protections. And you want to make sure you configure your email servers to verify the legitimacy of emails and incorporate cyber threat intelligence into firewall rules to block known malicious domains. Now, I know most of you aren't configuring email servers. It's your IT's dream job, right? But you can make sure your organization has these protections in place. You can ask about it. Then you've got to educate your employees. Train your personnel thoroughly and regularly to recognize common indicators of phishing. Again, this means you need to learn how to spot suspicious email addresses. You need to learn how to look for those generic greetings, the spoofed hyperlinks, and the suspicious attachments. Also, and this is very important, you need to stress the importance of avoiding posting personal information on social media. Trust me, attackers love social media because people volunteer so much useful information willingly. I'm excited to work at my company. My boss, insert boss's name here, is the best. Can't wait for our trip to Maui next week. Each of these gives hackers information they can use to craft even more convincing phishing attacks. Reporting the attempt. Train your employees and yourself to report phishing attempts. Don't just delete those suspicious emails and move on. Forward them to your IT security team or click the report phishing button if you have that option available. When you report them, you're not just protecting yourself, you're potentially preventing your colleagues from falling for the same scam, and you're just being a good cybersecurity neighbor, and we all want to get along. Protecting the network. Enforce MFA. We already talked about this. Restrict password sharing. Seriously, don't share passwords ever. And add endpoint protection. Make sure your devices have up-to-date antivirus and anti-malware software. The bottom line is that phishing works because attackers are good at exploiting human psychology. They create urgency, they leverage authority, they prey on our desire to be helpful or our fear of consequences. Knowing these tactics exist is half the battle. Safe device practices. All right, let's talk about device hygiene. I know device hygiene sounds about as exciting as dental hygiene, but stick with me. This is actually important. Individuals should practice safe cyber hygiene to protect their devices. Think of it as the daily brushing and flossing of the cybersecurity world. Boring, but essential. Your operating system updates. Promptly download and install those updates to device operating systems to patch newly discovered vulnerabilities. If you're on a call, a Teams call, a Zoom call, whatever it is that you're screen sharing with, and somebody's showing you their screen and you see at the top of their web browser, update needed, click here to restart. Make them click there to restart. It's not going to restart the whole computer, just the browser, but make sure that they're doing it. You know, I know the notifications are annoying. They always seem to pop up at the worst possible time. Your computer needs to restart in order to install updates. Yes, I'm in the middle of something. But here's the thing. Those updates often include those critical security patches for vulnerabilities that attackers are actively exploiting. When you delay those updates, you're leaving those known security holes open. It's like knowing you have a broken lock on your door and just hoping that nobody notices and tries the door handle. Now, another important note. Microsoft is no longer providing operating system updates to Windows 10 after October 14th, 2025. For those of you keeping track, that was 3 days ago. If you're still running Windows 10, now is the time to plan your upgrade. We do not get any compensation from Microsoft from this. This is just it. This is the way it is. Running an unsupported operating system is like driving a car with no brakes. You might be fine for a little while, but eventually something bad is going to happen. Install those software patches. Similar to patching operating systems, ensure that your commonly used applications like web browsers are up to date. This goes beyond your operating system. Your web browser, your PDF reader, your Java installation, Adobe products, all of those need regular updates too. Attackers specifically target outdated software because they know the vulnerabilities exist and they haven't been patched. Then you've got lock screens. Make sure you're training employees to be vigilant about locking the screens of their devices, whether it's their laptops or their smartphones, with a passcode or password. Ensure they lock their devices when they're not physically present. It seems so obvious, yet I can't tell you how many times I've walked through offices and seen unlocked computers just sitting there unattended. Used to have an old coworker who would play a prank and change my home screen to his alma mater instead of my alma mater, which is University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and he went to the school in Durham that I don't want to talk about. I learned really quick to make sure I locked my computer every time. It takes 2 seconds. You hit Windows L on your keyboard or Command Control Q on a Mac to lock your screen. Do it every single time you walk away from your device, even if you're just running to the bathroom or grabbing coffee. You never know who might walk by in those 30 seconds. You're gone. And let me just tell you something. A sophisticated attack, 30 seconds, plenty of time to install malware or steal data. Think of these practices as your daily cyber vitamins. They might not seem exciting, but they're going to keep you healthy in the long run. All right, so now we're going to shift from theory to reality. It's time for a case study that shows exactly why everything we've been talking about matters. We're going to look at interlock ransomware. This is a relatively new threat that emerged in September of 2024 and has been causing havoc ever since. This isn't some theoretical boogeyman. This is a real active threat that's targeting businesses just like yours right now. The reason I'm including this case study is simple. Nothing drives home the importance of cybersecurity practices quite like seeing what happens when things go wrong. It's one thing for me to tell you, use MFA and strong passwords. It's another thing entirely to see how attackers exploit the lack of those protections to cause real damage. So I'm going to say right now, buckle up. This is where cybersecurity gets real. So interlock ransomware was first discovered a little over a year ago, targeting various organizations and critical infrastructure. It's still relatively new in the ransomware ecosystem, but it's already making a name for itself as being particularly nasty. The strain specifically targets SMBs with limited IT staff. And if that sounds familiar, you know you're a target. They're going after exactly the organizations that we've been talking about. Businesses that don't have dedicated security teams, monitoring systems 24/7, 365. Organizations that store or process CUI. Remember CUI from our discussion before? Attackers know this information is valuable, and they know organizations that handle CUI are subject to compliance requirements. But believe it or not, that makes them perfect targets for ransomware. Not only can they encrypt your data, but they can threaten to expose it, which then creates regulatory and contractual nightmares. They call that it's not just malware; it's also ransomware. Then you've got, it's not just ransomware, it's also known as extortionware. See, I knew I was going to get that right sooner or later. Environments where legacy systems mingle with cloud workloads. Many organizations are in the middle of digital transformation, some systems in the cloud, some still on premises. If you're in manufacturing, how many computers do you have that are still running Windows XP? Because it still works. It creates complexity, and complexity creates vulnerabilities. Attackers absolutely love complexity. So how do those interlock operators work? First, they phish users for initial access. There it is, the number one attack vector we've been talking about. They send those convincing emails that trick employees into clicking malicious links or downloading infected attachments. Then they exploit unpatched virtual private network appliances. Remember when we talked about the importance of updates and patches? This is why attackers specifically look for VPN appliances running outdated software with known vulnerabilities. They move laterally via remote desktop protocol. Once they're in your network, they're going from system to system. They're escalating privileges and expanding their foothold. It's like a burglar who gets in through a window and then systematically unlocks every single door in the house. And then they're going to exfiltrate your CUI before encryption just to raise the ransom stakes. Again, the really devious part. They don't just encrypt your data and demand payment for the decryption key. They steal it first, then encrypt it. So even if you have backups and can recover your systems, they still have your sensitive information. They can threaten to publish it or sell it unless you pay. It's a double extortion model, and sadly, it is becoming increasingly more common. So here's where things get really interesting. In late July, the hashtag Stop Ransomware campaign advisory provided an interlock playbook that serves as more than just a threat report. It's essentially a cheat sheet showing where organizations are vulnerable, and here's the key part, how they prove diligence to CMMC assessors. See, the beautiful thing about following good cybersecurity practices is that they serve dual purposes. They protect you from attacks and they help you meet compliance requirements. It's like how eating healthy both prevents disease and helps you maintain a healthy weight. It's a win-win. Abiding by the 4 keys of the human firewall would not only help prevent the interlock ransomware attack, but would also better align organizations with specific CMMC requirements. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the direct connections. You've got this one, multi-factor authentication. The requirement states use MFA for local and network access to privileged accounts and for network access to non-privileged accounts. So how does it relate to interlock? Attackers often gain initial access through compromised credentials, stolen or guessed passwords. If MFA had been enabled, even with stolen credentials, the attackers wouldn't have been able to log in. MFA would have stopped the attack at the very first step. One simple control could have prevented the entire incident. So remember when we talked about MFA earlier? This is the real world proof of why it matters. So let's keep connecting the dots between the human firewall and CMMC. You've got password complexity. Enforce a minimum password complexity and change of characters when new passwords are created. Weak passwords are one of the primary ways attackers gain initial access. If an organization enforces strong password requirements, remember at least 16 characters, random, unique, it becomes exponentially harder for attackers to crack or guess credentials. The password practices we discussed aren't just good ideas, they're actual compliance requirements. Then you've got password reuse, and the requirement tells you not to allow reusing a password for a specified number of generations, because password reuse is a gift to attackers. If they compromise one system and discover a password, they'll try that same password everywhere else. And by prohibiting password reuse, you ensure that even if one password is compromised, the damage is contained to that single account. Then you've got incident reporting. Track, document, and report incidents to designated officials and/or authorities, both internal and external to the organization. That early detection and reporting of suspicious activity can mean the difference between a close call and a catastrophic breach. If an employee spots a phishing attempt and reports it, IT can alert the entire organization and block the attacker's infrastructure. And remember, it isn't just about documenting breaches after they happen, it's about catching those attacks in progress. Is your head spinning yet? I'm sorry to say we're not done yet. Let's take a look at a few more. Perform maintenance. Remember how interlock exploits unpatched VPN appliances? Regular maintenance includes applying those security patches and updates. This is how you close the doors that the attackers want to walk through. A vulnerability scan. Vulnerability scanning helps you identify weaknesses before the attackers exploit them. It's like getting a home inspection. You want to find the problems while they're still fixable, not after the roof is caved in. You've got flaw remediation for FCI data. This is a natural step after vulnerability scanning. You find the flaws, you report them, and you fix them. in a timely manner, not whenever we get around to it. Attackers are scanning the internet 24/7, and they are looking for vulnerable systems. The race is between you patching your systems and the attackers finding them first, so make sure you're coming in first in that race. So let's take a look at our key takeaways. We've covered a lot of ground today, so let's distill everything down to the key takeaways. Human error, the number one cause of cybersecurity breaches. I've said it multiple times today because it bears repeating. The weakest link in cybersecurity isn't your firewall, it's not your antivirus, it's people making mistakes. The concept of the human firewall includes these four elements: complex passwords, 16 characters, random, unique. Consider using that password manager. Multi-factor authentication, simple, effective, secure. Takes an extra 10 seconds when you log in, but it stops the majority of those credential-based attacks cold. Phishing is the number one attack method used by threat actors, so train yourself and your colleagues to recognize those attempts. And then individuals should practice safe cyber hygiene practices to protect their devices. Update your operating system, patch your applications, lock your screens. It's boring, it's routine, but it helps keep things secure. And remember, CMMC is now a reality. Personal responsibility combined with the human firewall principles can help move your organization towards CMMC compliance. Good cybersecurity practices and compliance requirements are largely aligned. Do one well, and you're probably going to make progress on both. Now that, of course, is where Project Spectrum comes in. I know some of you might be feeling a bit overwhelmed right now, kind of like Taylor Swift if she found out that Travis Kelce owns stock in a Moissanite business. That's completely normal. Cybersecurity can feel like drinking from a fire hose, but the good news is you don't have to figure this out alone. Project Spectrum, as you could see on this screen, has an extensive amount of resources available on our website to help you with this journey. This gives you a complete rundown. We've got a multitude of virtual courses covering CMMC. We've got a library of informational videos, and we've got on-demand webinar recordings like this one that cover things like cybersecurity, resilience, incident response planning, and many more topics. All of these resources are designed to take complex cybersecurity concepts and make them accessible and actionable. Trust me, we're not trying to turn you into cybersecurity experts. We're trying to give you the knowledge and tools you need to protect yourself and your organization. And then, of course, you've got the Project Spectrum resources, our comprehensive suite of tools and services, everything from our artifacts, assessment tools, and advisory services. You could see all of those here, our education and information services. The key point, you have resources available. You have information available. Take advantage. Visit projectspectrum.io. Register. Free to register. Explore what's available. Many resources are completely free because we generally want to help the defense industrial base become more secure. Now, this is normally where we would take questions. I will do my absolute best, but I think I have talked a little bit long for today. So I'm going to jump over to my colleagues and I'm going to see what they have got for us. So, okay, let's see. We've got Andrea asking, you mentioned that there are inexpensive ways to implement MFA. Can you let us know how? They've heard of Duo, especially Duo Government. This is expensive to put into play for entire small businesses. Again, there are a number of different types of MFA. You can use a Google Authenticator, which doesn't cost anything as far as I know. Microsoft, you have to have Microsoft Office or Microsoft 365 or whatever they want to call themselves today. But again, Microsoft, you have that as well. So, again, make sure that you're looking into all of that. Microsoft 365 Entra ID, including GCC High, provide built-in MFA at no extra cost. All right, and then we've got, is MFA really necessary for every account or is it just for work accounts? Well, let me just say this is, it's a great question. Ideally, you'd enable MFA on every account that offers it, but if you want to prioritize, start with these. Email, because hackers love compromised email accounts, financial accounts, work-related accounts, anything that contains sensitive personal information. The reality is all of your accounts are connected in ways you might not realize. An attacker who compromises your shopping account might find information they can use to attack your work account. But yes, start with the critical ones and work your way through the rest. All right. So every other question I'm hoping has been answered by our crack team. If you do have more questions, we've got ways for you to connect with us. I want to make sure that you understand that you can go to projectspectrum.io, your home base for everything we've talked about today and so much more. You can email us, kind of like the snail mail of the electronic world, but support@projectspectrum.io. Specific question, personalized guidance, email our support team. They're actual humans who know this stuff inside and out, not some automated chatbot who's going to tell you to try restarting your computer or ask you if it's turned on. You've got training webinars like this one. We do these regularly, so make sure you're watching out for the emails. Look at our calendar on our website. Social media, follow us on YouTube and LinkedIn. We post regular updates, tips, news, occasionally some cybersecurity humor, usually provided by me. Because if you can't laugh at the absurdity of trying to keep up with constantly evolving threats, you'll cry. And then that orange question mark in the bottom right corner of projectspectrum.io, click that. That's our virtual help desk. You'll connect directly with one of our cyber advisors. It's like having an expert on speed dial. They can help you with questions about specific controls, clarify regulatory requirements, point you to the right resources, or even schedule more detailed consulting sessions if you need hands-on help. We're here to make your compliance journey less painful and more successful, so take advantage of our resources. Well, folks, we've reached the end of our journey through Cybersecurity Awareness Month and the Human Firewall. If your head's spinning a little bit, trust me, that's completely normal. We have covered a lot of ground in a relatively short amount of time. But here's what I want you to take away from today. This was, an amazing thing. But more than any specific technical detail, remember, cybersecurity does start with you. It's not some mysterious IT department, not expensive software, not compliance frameworks. It is with you. Your decisions, your actions, your awareness. Every time you create a strong password or enable MFA or pause before clicking a suspicious link or lock your screen, you're being a good cybersecurity citizen. So I want to say thank you for investing your time in this training. Thank you to the Project Spectrum team, Mark and the cyber advisors for getting everything together today. Thank you for taking cybersecurity seriously. Thank you for being a willing part of the human firewall. If you ever feel overwhelmed or uncertain about cybersecurity decisions, remember, Project Spectrum is here to help. So stay safe, stay secure, stay vigilant, and remember, cybersecurity starts with you. Now go forth and be the awesome human firewall we know you can be. Thanks, everyone. And make sure you look for the link. We're going to send out a survey asking about this webinar. Give us all the feedback you can give us, the good, the bad, the ugly. We need it. Have yourself a great day, and we wish you the best in your cybersecurity journey.